order.
Yes, at 8:04.
Thank you. In the specs, I made the huge mistake of specifying some newfangled brass doorknob. And that was before I had the opportunity to read about and learn what we actually have. This is what is called a federal rim lock because it goes over the rim on the edge of the door. And normally these pieces of a lock are in the mortise, if you look at any of the doors. Whereas here, the door is just a plank of wood, and this has, and so, with vinegar, olive oil, and elbow grease.
No herbs.
No herbs, no rosemary and sage. I have restored this.
Fantastic.
And, see this, see how the
All right, well
door
done.
does this, and this is how you, lock it, and then if you wanna walk out of your house and not be locked out, you lift that there.
Fantastic.
So, and this is locked onto the other side so that you're,
It's a jam, so.
Got
it's
it.
the jam.
Yep.
So I did not think, maybe I misjudged you, that I would have much controversy in
None.
saying that we want to restore these locks, put them back on the doors.
I wonder
and
how old
not
that
use-
sucker is.
Look at
Oh,
the
it's
size.
original. This
It's
is
about
for
200
sure.
years, well, nearly
Well,
200 years.
1826 to now, what's that? Something short of 200 years.
Wow.
8 years short of 200 years.
Yeah.
Were there
But
any
this
keys?
is the interior.
This is the interior lock.
Okay.
So this is how it is if you just want to walk out of your house, you do this. If you want to lock your door,
This is for the front door.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
this is the front door lock. When you walk out of your house, you do that.
Wow.
And there, the skeleton key has been lost. There is a place called Antique Hardware where you could order, and the skeleton keys have sort of two notches, and the
Mhm.
first one stays in here, and then the second one presumably goes up here
Right.
and activates this bit. See, it flips up there,
Mhm.
and then must lock in there so that it does that.
Mm.
What luck.
How?
Okay, but so what gets attached on, since that's on the inside, we have no purview over that.
That is attached on the outside. This is what it looked like.
Oh, that's the outside.
This is the inside, and this is the outside. This is what the knob looked like before I cleaned it.
Okay.
This is what the gold knob looked like before
This
you
knob looked like this morning.
cleaned it? Good heavens, wow, well done.
And just
Elbow grease.
vinegar and olive oil and elbow grease. Oh.
Vinegar and olive oil and a lot, actually very, very, very fine sandpaper that you can use underwater.
Wow.
So this one is the one I fixed. This one is the before.
Hmm.
With lots of lead paint. Oops, sorry. No, I didn't eat it. And
Nor left the child.
this, I will clean this knob, obviously, to make it look like that.
Son of a
Cool.
gun.
Excellent.
That sounds great.
So we took all the locks off all the doors, and so we have a winter project
Mm.
to restore these.
So are there other doors that have this type of lock as
Oh,
well?
every door has a lock, not as massive as this, but a similar, they're called federal rim locks. And I just hadn't had time to read and learn, and there's, fortunately, Mr. Google tells you lots of things.
Bill Jan.
Hi,
Yeah.
You missed a great
We're
show in
knowing all
town.
about federal rim locks.
I am doing a federal rim lock show and tell.
Oh,
This is our federal rim lock, and it's because when I was ignorant about federal rim locks, I proposed some Baldwin brass ugly thing, but had the presumption of assuming that the HDRB would be okay with me restoring the original federal rim locks. And this one now does its lock thing. So.
Amazing,
Oh my
right?
God.
So that is, I will, for your files, take a photo. I just actually finished it. It wasn't quite done. So I'll take photographs and send you a photograph of the rim lock so that you can replace the other lock in the files that go with the
Cut sheets.
the cut sheets of all the details of what we're gonna do. The rest of the presentation is in an endeavor to not go bankrupt.
Yeah. Aha.
Yes, I'm glad you find that one. It's either funny or funny boo-hoo. So we went back to Steve Tilley and asked him for things that were easy to do and did not distract historically from and would save money. So the first one is the breezeway on to the modern entrance it used to have glass and or this was boxed in and this was glass all the way there. So it's been replaced by a roof and a door. And
So just open with an overhang.
yes, open with an overhang. Which bit is it? Which side?
That one.
It's probably,
That-
it's
No,
It's
probably,
around the corner.
now that's east, it's west. That's north, it's gotta be the last one, it always is, yes. So, I don't need to see these, I've seen these before, pardon me. Andres do bubbles around all the changes. So this is just going to have a roof and a regular door. And then the path from the garage will be exactly as it was before.
What are the columns?
The
Roof supports.
Yes, but
Roof.
are they
wood,
wood?
Wood.
And you'll actually see more of the building that way, I
um,
guess.
I guess.
It's one way to,
it saves about $50,000 and it all adds up.
Hmm. So is it just going to be sort of engineered in a way that in the future,
Yes,
when you fall into $50,000, you'll
The
put the
footings-
glass into it?
yes, the
Okay.
footings for this, so basically, we discussed this with the builder and he, pointed out that he will put, if you just have a concrete slab, you can never put a structure on it.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a concrete slab and then footings,
Yeah.
it does not add that much cost and it gives you the opportunity, if you were ever wanting to glass it in, to do so in the future.
Okay. Yeah.
And the
Well-
builder thought that was worthwhile.
and you would probably need it in order to support these columns that are supporting the roof.
Yeah.
Because the roof has a certain snow load, which would carry it, so
I'm a
I think,
pediatrician, you're an architect, I'm gonna trust whatever you say, sir.
I think it's a good idea.
Thank you very much. So that's cost saving number one. Cost saving number two is in fact, I think, historically better. The porch has been concreted over, but the steps are original, and these three steps are original. So rather than rebuild the foundation of the porch will remain, the concrete will have, wood put on top of it to look like a wooden porch. You have to put little
Sleepers.
Mm-hmm.
sleepers underneath, dormers to, there's the edge, like, the edge of the concrete. We have not worked out the details, but both the builder and Steve Tilley tells me that there is a way to make it tasteful so that you don't have sleepers and then an ugly concrete edge underneath, because I was worried about that. And there's a technical solution to that, and these stone steps, which are original, Lincoln either walked up these steps or those steps, will stay. And that saves another $50,000 not to have to build a, foundation for a porch. Here we go. Yeah, so that basically, that was the,
And this is the porch that was in the original 1833 Wharton drawing.
so
Mhm.
there's a molding on the edge.
yes.
So you're wrapping the front.
So
The top
right
gets
here
decking.
underneath, there,
Mhm.
the concrete is about this thick,
Mhm.
and you put you can't put wood on concrete because it rots, and
Right.
so you put these little, whatever they're called,
Spacers.
sleepers
Spacers.
things. And then over the edge, there's a
Trim board.
trim board over the edge, so the edge looks nice.
So it's
I
all,
was concerned about that.
so it's all wrapped.
So it's all wrapped and um, what's the third thing, David?
Windows?
For the
Right.
windows.
The windows. Where's the windows paper?
I'm
Remember
sure-
that?
sure
Oh, it's in
they-
there.
Mhm.
So the, European windows were about twice as much, and the LePage person, is incredibly knowledgeable, and he was doing the, windows for the old historic part of the house.
Mhm.
And these will be casement windows, because we had said that we wanted to differentiate the old from the new, and the old is gonna have the double hung windows, and these will be casement windows. They are just made by LePage. The previous, window manufacturer was a European manufacturer, and there was a lot of expenses associated with the fact that American windows are made for American construction a certain way, and European windows require different ways in terms of, because they open in and not out, and the way they're installed in terms of molding, so it saves cost on the actual windows, but it also saves cost on saves cost on shipping, but also saves cost on the installation, because these are a more standard thing to install. And because we had already committed to the LePage windows for the old house, we were able to get a much better financial deal on having him do the entire house, LePage windows. So this is for you, these are the specs of every single window in the house, in the new house, because the old ones, you have,
Do you want the,
here you go.
This is a continuous document.
That's a continuous
Yeah.
document, sorry.
do you want the cut sheet from before? From the previous approval?
I just can't remember, did the original windows have, divided light, or were they?
They had divided light,
They did,
yes,
okay.
yes. The divided light is unchanged.
Right,
The size of the divided lights is slightly different in order to differentiate the two buildings. And they're casement windows, not double hung, so therefore look slightly different.
These are
And-
talking about grills. My recollection was we had simulated divided light or something like that.
What are they?
yeah, it says SDL 7/8
Got it?
next to grills.
Oh, SDL,
Simulated
that's right.
divided light.
So they're not the stick-on.
Mhm.
If you would prefer those, Carolyn, they're cheaper.
We just had the
This is the
stick-ons
same
removed from
stuff.
Village Hall.
Ah,
I don't see that it's a great difference,
I don't think it does either, but what's the actual exterior of it? Is the whole thing wood? It's wood on the exterior as well?
it is aluminum clad the same way the windows are aluminum clad.
Yeah,
Oh, I see. Here
exterior
it
primed
is.
and extruded
Sash,
aluminum
okay, it's
standard.
under the sash, yeah.
It's, the double hung windows.
Right.
Do you need that?
The same as the,
No, I don't know what that is.
Now, these are all cases though, right?
Oh, that's the moving, no, I don't know what this is.
And that's the moving from.
That's the moving from the house in Austria? Oh. Do we need this? Nope.
No, that's, you want?
You need that?
What is this?
We don't
It's just
need
the
it.
rest,
It's
it's
just
the rest of the
scrap.
document.
another property, we don't need it in this file.
Yeah.
I mailed you all an electronic copy of these.
yeah,
3, 2, for.
So
All right.
all of the new
Where's number
windows,
one?
all of the new windows on the new
Oh, there's
building are all
a
going to
whole
be
bunch of
casements.
them,
Yes,
Right.
correct.
It's a
Um,
continuous document.
no.
Some of them are fixed because, in the kitchen, there's there's 5, with 2 on either sides and 1 in the middle. And the one
Oh,
in
right,
the middle
okay.
is right over the sink. So
Right.
that's actually a fixed window.
Where's number one? I wanna get to number 2 here.
This is 7 of 12.
Oh,
A whole bunch of
Here
things.
you go. Is all my So this one
Where's it?
is actually fixed because it's over the sink, and whether it opens in or out, there's no way you could actually,
Right.
when we went through with the window salesman, he actually said, you kinda can't open that one because it's over the sink. These 2 are casements,
And this one's an awning.
yes, because it's in the attic,
1, 2,
and this one similarly is fixed.
3, 4,
Well, I think that maintains, you know,
This is
our
seven.
original goal of there
That's
being a separation between the two.
Mind if I come hover?
Please, you have another
Oh,
one.
no, don't open another one.
but this is all in the new.
You don't have another
edition.
table,
Yeah.
actually.
All in the new edition.
Do we have questions?
I don't have any questions.
No,
Um,
No, not really.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear.
I mean, the windows are very similar to what we originally approved.
All right, so let's take each one of them separately. Replacement of the rim lock. Do I have a motion to approve that?
Enthusiastically moved.
Crow.
Second?
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the placement of a wood deck on the front porch, right, that's, do I have a motion to approve that?
I would move to approve that.
Second?
second,
All in favor?
aye.
Replacement, now, let me ask one question concerning the windows. Originally, were all of the windows casements or double hung in the original application?
The windows on the old house
No,
are
no,
double
no,
hung.
no,
The
the
windows
ones
on
that-
the
ones
new
that you're-
house are casements, but they were European casements that open out.
Right.
No,
Opened it?
In,
In.
Open in.
sorry, wrong way. These are American casements that open out.
and some were fixed on
Okay.
the original as well.
Do I have a motion concerning changing the window manufacturer?
So
Yeah, I'll move,
Go ahead,
Second?
second.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Then we got the breezeway thing,
This way,
Oh,
the
okay.
door.
yeah.
Sure. Place window. Do I have a motion concerning the change in the breezeway from an enclosed breezeway to an open breezeway?
So move,
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
aye.
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 Now I have to bore you with a trivial detail about the inside because we had originally, I know you have no jurisdiction over the inside, but I thought you would be fascinated by this. This is the original house and this is the original dining room and the molding is perfect. Clearly this wide, or 8-inch wide crown molding all around here. And we could, for the life of us, not figure out what this corridor was that went nowhere. And then we went to visit Boscobel and realized that this was a butler's pantry. And the kitchen, as you all remember, is
Mhm.
in the northeast corner as far as possible from the southwest dining room, so that the smells of the cooking would be kept away from the muckety mucks, and that the people who cooked would cook down here, would run up the stairs, they would change their clothes or hand them over to somebody who was dressed in fancy clothes in this butler's pantry, probably have some kind of heating device, and then serve the food in the dining room.
Wow.
So this is an integral historical part of the story of the house and how it used to function. And we were able to figure this out, kind of piecing the pieces together, why the original dining room had the molding and clearly was this size and not that size, because this was the butler's pantry.
So are you restoring a wall in there to?
This is an existing wall, and on this plans, it's drawn as being taken out, because before we spent lots of time restoring it, we didn't realize, we thought this was a corridor they had added, but couldn't figure out why they would add a corridor that went nowhere. Thought maybe they added this corridor to go to the new edition, the 1920s edition. And then realized that doesn't make sense because the molding in the dining room is original. And then realized that this room in the original house was a corridor that went nowhere, was the butler's pantry and functioned with the kitchen in the basement so that the servants could come back here.
So you don't have to see them very much also.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can also always make it a bar.
We can make it lots of things, we just found that the sort of historical, and the penny drop when we were walking through Boscobel, and David went, oh,
Right, in that little corner.
I know what that is, that corridor that goes nowhere. I just thought you guys would think that was interesting.
That's fantastic.
There's so many wonderful things about this house, but the scale, you know, all of the fineries on such a small scale are really wonderful.
Mm. Mhm.
So we just were very pleased, and we'll absolutely keep the butler's
That's
pantry
great news.
because it's an intrinsic fabric of the history of the house.
Cool.
Well,
Is
send
the
pictures
front
as you go along.
elevation drawing sufficient for to show how the deck is gonna be recovered for the building inspector?
Well,
Or
I
is there
guess
just
the
any more
only, the
detail that it
only,
needs?
well, the only question really is the trim board, right?
Right, and I think it's the last, there's a front elevation, I just couldn't tell if it was detailed or not. Or if there's anything else that you wanna call out on it.
I'll go back. Would be the west elevation, I think.
And I would say that there is no specific detail.
The building inspector was, when we asked, was not interested in the trim board on the front of the porch.
Well, just so it's communicated what.
Okay, I guess subject to, when you guys figure out how you want the detail to work, you could just send it to us.
We'd be happy to send you an email.
But
Absolutely.
you know, it'll, basically, it just has to cover that edge of concrete, so it has to
Right.
be at least that depth.
Correct.
You know, and you'll probably have probably a little cove molding or something very simple.
And the way you know I'll do that is because it's my house, I think the concrete's ugly. So
Yeah.
I'll make sure this gets done right, because I don't wanna look at the ugly concrete.
Well, and the
And
other
we know that Lincoln didn't walk on concrete.
Lincoln definitely did not walk on concrete,
Not
and so
that-
we're gonna
that
hide the
concrete
concrete
anyway.
and make it go away.
The one thing that you also should be aware of is that you can use pressure treated wood for the sleepers because it's not gonna be visible.
Oh, sweet, good, the sleepers won't rot. That's great news.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool.
Alright.
Thanks for coming.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing the law. That's really fun
Do
to
you
see.
wanna keep that?
well, I need three copies,
You need 3 paper copies of plans?
yeah. Because that's part of the application.
But you can deliver, how many do we have?
I only have 2.
So you can
Is an
deliver, you can deliver
electronic
us.
copy enough?
Well, actually, let me
I
have
sent you the
one.
electronic copies.
Yeah, let me have one, and what I'll do is I'll download this. I can print 11 by 17 as opposed to
Yeah.
bed
Okay.
spreads.
That would be terrific, thank you very much.
Okay.
See you.
Great, cool,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you very much. Winter again. Bye,
Good night,
everybody.
thanks for
Alright,
coming
good
in.
Alright,
Hi, how are you?
hey, for you.
Hey. And just a note that I made an error on the agenda, it's listed as 164, this is 168.
Right,
168.
Yeah.
and I remember the days when I was excited about the features of an old house in Cold Spring, like these people are. Now it's not so exciting anymore.
I love that you have the Shea thumbtack marks, though,
Yeah.
that's the best part.
Okay, tell us what you were proposing to do.
Okay, so it's a small addition, it's a kitchen breakfast nook essentially, that would be built under the existing porch.
You know what, I don't think your client has met everybody else on the board
Sorry.
before.
Kevin McCrory.
Hi, Sean.
Sean, nice to meet you.
Al Sklinsky?
Ah, nice to meet you.
Carolyn Basham.
Nice to meet you, Kevin.
And then Kathleen, good to see you again, sorry, I just
Okay.
realized that this was the
Good
first
point.
time that Kevin has.
Well,
And I
So
apologize.
it's
well,
this
first time
area
in
here.
10
Wow.
years, yeah.
This area here.
Yes, correct.
So it's filling in that back porch a bit, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And another small implication of that would be changing the window over the kitchen sink. Where the kitchen sink is currently located here, we're moving it over, so we would raise the sill of that window a little bit.
Do you have any pictures of that?
We have some renderings and things.
But no pictures.
So that's this, window that's
Yes.
It's pretty far back from the street.
Really visibility from High Street and that perspective shows that view.
where's
Oh,
the-
never mind. Got it.
Okay, so this is a partial elevation, which is really,
behind this.
yeah, it's behind the bay window here. There's a double height bay window.
Okay,
existing.
got it.
So it's really just a cutaway
So,
view.
so you're inserting a wall here that wasn't there now, isn't
Correct.
there now? Okay.
So, you know, the original portion of the house is the brick front, and then there was an addition, probably 1890s, I would guess,
Right.
and wood frame behind, which includes the bay window here and the porch. And so, our thing is just to infill this one bay, actually keeping the edge of the porch the same, the railings would be the same, they would remain, posts would remain, and just infill the height.
This is not unlike the, I can't remember if you did this or not, the porch at 192
Yeah.
Main, the
Jennifer's?
Jennifer's
Torrance.
house, yeah. We had advised them on that window.
Okay, do I have a motion
What-
on
what is
secret?
It's a workshop. It's
Workshop.
Oh,
workshop.
workshop.
And- And in principle, I have no objection, I mean, we've seen this done and done well around the village, it's a good solution to gain space. The window that you're modifying is in proportion with the other windows, though smaller, but it's set further back from the street.
How are the what are the existing windows made out of? What are their frames and stuff like that?
There are replacement windows,
Mhm.
They're wood,
They're wood, yeah.
They're wood, all wood, just double hung.
Right.
Are they wood on the exterior too, or,
Yeah.
Correct, painted wood.
Yeah.
and you would be doing something
Yes.
roughly the same?
Isn't that back portion partially enclosed anyway, is that where the screen porch is?
We had a screen porch, we took the screens off, so it used to be a screen porch, but it's not.
But it has been sort of enclosed in that portion in the past.
It was, yeah, it was,
But
when we
with
bought the house, it was
screens, yeah.
screened in, yeah, and there was a door that
Mhm.
went out to the backyard from
Right.
that area, but we pulled that door out.
Didn't they dig out the basement in this house to make the basement deeper?
Yeah, well, we dug it out because it was,
Oh, you-
kind of the
you were the
foundation
owner
was
then?
rotting, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think we did it, 4 years ago,
Mhm,
or
yeah,
so,
it's
yeah.
not that.
South of Dallas.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Bigger.
And then we found out that, you know, it needed some structural work, so we had to put some,
That's kind of
Since
interesting.
March.
So what's,
It's sort of like what they do in London, they keep going down further, you know, they're like,
It's
Fourth-
7 stories now. It's
yeah,
like
right,
going
yeah,
down the side.
insane, you know.
we found it was built that it was hemlock, I think is what the wood was, that it was built on, and it kind of rotted out, so we had to just, you know, reinforce it.
so what feedback would be useful to you now to get ready for an application?
What would you like to see in addition to this?
Material specs?
Material specs, so specifications for LaPage windows, and
These are going to be LePage also?
There's a lot of LePage these days.
we brought it here.
They're great windows.
And there we go.
I just have one sort of comment, and it's not a deal breaker, it's just looking at it. I wonder whether maintaining the railing on the outside of the enclosed portion makes it seem less integrated into the building. Like, there's just something about it to me that just, and I'm sure I will walk around the village this weekend and see numerous examples of this and change my mind, but the only thing about it is that it does kind of make it seem a little temporary, and because it's not treated that way on the back, I just don't know if it should, you know, if it should be treated as a sunroom and then the porch is the porch. I don't know if anyone else feels that way about it
The
too.
only thought I have is that when you think in particular about, because 192 has such visibility from the public right of way, it reads as a once open porch that was closed in, and you can still read the form of the porch, which I
Mhm.
think is useful. You understand it to be an evolution of the building.
Mm-hmm.
And this is much further back, but I think it's a useful way to infill.
Right, and it's a really small space, so that those extra 6 inches of space by pushing it towards the backyard really helped us. You know, it was just too small. So-
Okay, and it's a new, entry on the back with the stairs and the little porch there.
Yeah, they're currently, and obviously something helpful for the hearing, it would be showing the as-built condition.
Yeah.
Okay. So currently there are steps, 3 steps coming up directly from the backyard up here.
Yeah,
into
the 3 steps, and
Changes
a little half step up.
Right, I think
Right now.
what I'm talking about is not, it's not the way that the back elevation is treated, it's the way that the side elevation is treated, so gaining the,
I mean,
I see what you're saying, that you wanted to gain the space going towards the backyard, but I guess what I'm saying is you could also kind of gain space going into the side as well, if this were a more flush wall, but, that's just the only thing that kind of jumped out to me as
I kind of like the way that the railing just continues all the way across.
yeah, and I also like because the columns stand out more.
Mm-hmm,
Right, you can still read the porch.
yeah.
And the fact that it's predominantly windows, so, you know, it will still have that kind of dark or light or whatever, you know, there's a transparency there that reads consistently. It's not like it's a solid wall all the way up, you know.
Right.
The wall that you're inserting,
Mhm.
what's the, is it clapboard, and is that clapboard on the, you know, because there's no photographs here, I can't remember what the back of the house looks like. Is it clapboard on that later addition, and is that, this going to match that, or what?
Yes, it's all clapboard. The current condition of the addition is all clapboard.
Uh-huh.
We would match the clapboard for that perpendicular wall and the back wall.
Go ahead, yeah.
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 So, this wall here is clapboard and below the window,
Mhm.
clapboard, and clapboard here under the window here.
Mhm.
And here, since we have the railing, we would have a painted marine grade plywood behind that, so it's a clean flat
Mhm.
panel that would just be paint and so that the railing is the detail out in front.
Mm.
railings are actually really, really nice in this house.
They are.
It's a really great proportion to it.
Do we have other feedback?
I guess, how's the corner treated?
The corner?
Because you've got clapboard on this side, clapboard on that side, and then this wood panel behind the railing.
It meets behind the column, so we can go back to the plan. So, we would match the trim board of the house, here and here. So, you can see that there's the trim board coming down. It would extend down from there. So, the same trim board that,
I guess the only thing, I mean, it's gonna be kinda hard to maintain that one way or another, but it seems like, clapboard on that side. I'm not totally sure that, a simple panel across this face really does that much. I mean,
Well, you have to have
Opposed to what?
something opaque behind the
all right, but-
railing that is going to remain.
yeah, well, I know, but why not clapboard all over on that?
maintenance, painting and maintaining it.
Well, how do you maintain the panel?
It's a flat panel, so it's a lot easier to paint.
It's what?
It's a flat panel, so it's a lot easier to paint.
Yeah, on the house on Main Street.
192.
192, that, I think it's a flat panel also.
But also remember, you're not gonna be able to read clapboard, the public, from the public right of way isn't going to be able to read clapboard necessarily behind that railing so far back from the street. So I don't know that ensuring clapboard there makes a visual impact that anyone other than the property owner is going to see.
Well, you can say the same thing about, this side, because nobody's gonna see it either.
Well, but that side you can see from High Street.
High Street,
Well, I don't know if you can see that from
and
High Street.
probably
because
less
that's
than you
actually-
can from, the driveway.
It seems like that, that's the bottom part, and it should be consistent on all sides. Maybe it's a panel system on all four sides as opposed to clapboard.
Oh, I see what you're saying, that there is clapboard, there's clapboard indicated for the back, but not for the, but
Well,
not here?
you've got clapboard
Oh,
on two
right here.
sides.
Yeah, but the rail doesn't continue there,
Okay, but I mean, in other words,
so you'll see it, but the rail,
the bump out is an object, and
Mhm.
basically the base of it, I would think, there's some benefit for it being consistent on all three sides.
I think an analogy to that would be the bay window, directly adjacent to it. And essentially, it's like we're building out a larger bay window here.
Okay, but, this is a
Yeah,
new-
because underneath the windows here, what do you have? You have clapboard, right?
panel,
That's kind of big, I think it might be
I
clapboard.
think we are showing clapboard.
Yeah, I think,
Well, we're
I'm
still in
pretty sure,
workship, so,
I
yeah.
think it is, yeah,
Mm.
I'm not 100% sure.
But, so if this were to be, basically the bay window here, and this is clapboard underneath, and then if we think of this as the bay window here, and it's clapboard underneath, or that it's, the three sides where the glazing is the bay window, and we bring the panel down below that window stool, and then the kind of flanking walls could be the clapboard to match. We looked at it being plain, like on those perpendicular walls where the interior program just doesn't call for windows to extend that way. But to have all of this panel was too much, nothingness, but to kind of end it here and then return this in clapboard made sense.
I don't feel strongly
I
I think so
prefer
much
to
of it
see
is
as
gonna
clapboard.
exist in shadow
as
anyway,
exactly.
because of the because
Mhm.
It's too far
it's
back.
the overhang of the roof, and then, you know, the public is only ever really seeing this at such an angle. Obviously, this is a drawing, so it, you know, who knows how accurate it is, but, you know, when you're looking at it from an angle, the spacing of these pickets is gonna essentially create such a screen. I don't know whether it would really be noticeable if it were clapboard or a solid panel.
And the 3D model of this is actually pretty accurate in capturing that.
Yeah.
They're thin and, deep, spindles, so that they really create a,
On the side, it's like a,
Mhm.
it's like a.
And as a matter of fact, in like my visual memory of the building, I didn't even realize that the porch went back quite that high.
Mhm. Well, the porch, we do have a fence and a patio that cuts right where we're building, so that last post is kind of part of the last part where it is really a patio right there too, so it's a little more straight than front
Yeah,
yard.
I guess that's why it seems shorter, yeah.
Right, because there's a fence there for the patio, so it's really,
Yeah, yeah.
the kitchen part is going right back where the fence is, straight back from there.
Yeah.
I think you're gonna have the same problem as far as maintenance with this rail here, and so, I mean, as far as feedback, that would be it would be nice if this could consistently be, or it could be consistent on all three
Yeah.
sides, so.
I could see it being, like window to window, as it wraps around,
Okay.
and then clapboard where it returns and it's just blank wall.
Yeah, all right, so you're talking about a panel here and a panel under the window
On the
on
side.
that side,
Right.
and then the wall, the clapboard picking up from there.
Right.
Okay, I can buy that. Any other comments, feedback, suggestions?
No. I think so. I think maybe just a photo of the house as well.
Yeah.
You need that to have the application be complete. Do you
But I
have
think
a-
everything, I mean, all of the technical details are called out pretty clearly for the building inspector, so.
Do you have a referral?
No,
Cause you're asking,
Yeah.
you're hoping to come back soon, so
Right.
you still need to put in application and all the supporting
Yeah.
materials and get your referral. We meet in December
Yeah, but only once.
only once, so, yeah.
We're not gonna meet on Christmas.
We're not gonna meet on Christmas.
You can meet here
you
on
can have a
Christmas
Christmas
Eve.
party, yeah.
Oh,
Um,
actually, we are gonna be meeting
We
on
are, we have a workshop scheduled on the
19th.
19th, so we're meeting on the 12th, and then the following week on the 19th is available as a workshop session, and if not, we've got administrative stuff to catch up on that night.
So,
So the 12th is a monthly meeting,
okay.
for which you'll need to get the application in and get a referral.
Actually, if it were Wednesday, it would be Christmas, it would be Boxing Day.
Boxing Day.
Cool.
Okay.
Excellent.
Nice
Good luck.
meeting you.
Thank
Yeah, very nice to meet you, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Right, you can keep that.
Good night.
All right, you too.
Say hi to the boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Hopefully I won't say you know tonight, hopefully they're.
Yes, exactly.
Nice.
James, there is a drain.
Great, I wonder what went down there.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Cheers. So, these are. Hey Sean, how are you? Nice to meet you. Office. And these are copies of file materials that you asked for. Hi, Kathleen.
Hi, I'm Anthony Miranda.
Anthony, nice to meet you.
How are you?
Hello,
Hi, Tom Splinsky. Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Sean.
Hi, Sean. I'm in. John, how are you?
Okay, so I guess, from what I understand, what we're gonna do is try and find out why the building was taken down, and what your rationale was. Right?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, I think the board felt like it approved the partial demolition, I think the second story, and I guess what's transpired is a full demolition, so I guess they just need an
So we
explanation.
have all the documents here, so why don't you take us through what happened?
Sure, so,
Oh.
yeah, no, sure, so, just to make sure you know, I'm Anthony Miranda, and I'm an attorney, so I'm not an architect or an expert in architecture as you all are, but I'll do my best to help.
When,
Mine
Okay.
don't hold it against me and John, but, yeah.
I mean, I can walk you through what I think the process was, and just be very, this is where we are. So
do you want the
we,
documents, or do you have the documents?
we have them, but so the first time we came here, we talked about removing the roof, the second floor walls, and the framing on the second floor. And the south wall of the building has openings that we were either infilling or making new openings. And so then we went through a process where we did a selective demo, and then we came back and we asked to have a 6-foot extension. And we talked about the pore shape of the building, and I showed you the photo where the structure was cut through, and we talked about a lot of that would be needed to be replaced. And we talked about it as replacement in kind and not seeing it from the exterior, which I think is a correct assessment of what we were talking about. And so the structure was really bad, and so then so that really left us very little of the building. And the foundation was pretty much, there was a little bit of a rubble wall, and then there was, basically it was on ledge, and all the floor joists were sitting in they were just mush, basically. So we redrew the construction drawings to show what would have to be taken out, and that's what we filed. And my understanding is that it was interior, the exterior was what was approved. It was the structure that was inside that couldn't be salvaged. So that's where we got to.
So was anything salvaged?
There was nothing to salvage.
There's really nothing. It had been modified many, many times. I think that's it.
I think so, I mean, just
I'm
as
just trying
sort of
to-
from a higher level, I think,
This is gonna be, excuse me one second.
Yeah, sure.
It's gonna be easier for you to see chronologically going through the actual file than trying to go through the copies Jeff made.
Well, I'm not, I'm
If
just
you
moving
need
him
to
out of the
look
way,
at
because we'll let the applicant
Yeah.
take us through.
So, I think just from a high level, and I'm sure as you're familiar with this project, you've reviewed it many times before and have been involved in an ongoing process. I think one point to make is that this is a group of people who have tried to work really closely with the village, not evade the board in any way or do anything in that manner. And, as Beth mentioned, I think it was back in April, it was the discussion about how it was likely to replace those in kind. And that was sort of something that came to fruition as the construction project was ongoing. I think one thing, if we fast forward to more recent events and the fact that once they obtained their last approval from this board in, I believe it was August, and in that time period in between, there's no change to ultimately the structure itself. It's not being moved, it's not being shifted, from what was approved by the building inspector, pursuant to the updated construction drawings. I think if I can boil down what the question ultimately is there's the two exterior walls that is up for part of this discussion. But everything else subsequent to that was supposed to be, or contemplated to be taken down, and those two walls were discussed to be were discussed to be taken down in April of this year. So, I think from the side of both the building inspector, who I think reasonably reviewed this, and made the determination, but also from the design team side it was sort of inherent in the project that the interior framing, the studs, if needed, would be removed and replaced in the same location in the same way. I think that was sort of the understanding.
And I think that, if you look at our last approval from in front of you and compare it with the building department set of that south elevation, for example, none of this fabric was ever going to be original. It was never visible. And when Beth was in front of you, you weren't at the meeting, and then and she showed the photograph, and it was clearly disjunctive. There were where there were window headers and openings before. Those had been modified, and we were coming in and putting them where the program needed them to be. So what are you left with but a couple of studs? And when you had the conversation with Beth, the talk was about, because I could see the video, I wasn't at the meeting either, but I saw the video. It was that, well, that's interior, it's not really, it's structured, we're not gonna see it.
So I think
So if you look at these two images, I can't see, except for the targets for the elevations and some heights, the difference between the filing set and what you approved last. There just isn't any difference. And I don't know how.
What's the foundation made of?
What is the foundation made?
Yeah.
Beth was describing it, So the foundation that we'll be making is gonna be concrete. It's, as you know, not seen because it's behind this screen. This is completely enclosed underneath the porch, so it was never gonna be visible. What it was there was a rubble section on the south elevation where you couldn't see it here now, and all the rest of the perimeter was on ledge. There was one place on the north elevation where there was some CMU that was stuccoed over, and that's it. So we thought we were like just doing what we had talked about in these meetings. So it came as a surprise to us that you were surprised, frankly.
Anybody have questions?
Paul, could you just, I was just writing
Sure.
down notes. So you said the foundation was rubble, as noted in the drawing, part CMU, and then you said part of it was just sitting on ledge.
The majority of the foundation was ledge.
The west and the northwest corner, there was some block work that extended from the garage. There was a bit of rubble wall that was on the south side, but the majority of it is ledge.
And on the west side and on the north side, you couldn't see the foundation because the siding went down to grade. I mean, that was part of the problem.
So, as part of the original approvals, was there any work to be done on the first floor? I mean, I think it's pretty clear all the work that was supposed to be done on the second floor.
There was work to be done on the first floor, and that work included making, new openings in a wall that we at one point thought was gonna have some integrity to it, right?
Okay.
So the original,
I guess
and that's
you
in the
can
plan,
see
you can't see that,
what
typically
is
in.
original, and then,
So if you see the original, and if you were to, understand how this relates to that, and you can do that by looking at the plan, right? Because the plan shows where we were taking out what was there existing, and then where we were putting in new.
Mm-hmm.
So, the section, the photograph that Beth showed, was looking at this section between those two existing, the door and the window. So, yes, as Caroline pointed out, she didn't know what was up. This is up, right? So there's no continuous framing. You can see that there's infill framing with 2x4. This is a kind of a header. There's nothing here that's really salvageable from a structural point of view. and as far as historical, I don't know how these would be considered historical. So again, we were not trying to not show something, we thought we had, and we thought that it was pretty clear that, you know, we didn't draw an elevation of the two superimposed, but,
You had a demolition that you guys approved over on, about the Silver Spoon, right, about a year ago?
The building next door,
No, the Silver Spoon on Main Street.
Next to the
Right.
Silver Spoon.
next to the
Yeah.
Silver, yep, 126.
I remember that was an issue as far as structural, right? You had to review an engineer, you guys retained your own engineer to check whether it was salvageable or whatever was stable?
Correct, and that same circumstance happened in the, at
with
the
the
other,
cottage,
the
which is
the
the
other
other,
building
the other
also,
project
so
here, and we went
same
through the whole
process.
secret process and the archaeological digs and things.
Right,
This was never identified as a concern. I mean, we brought this up.
right, 'cause I guess
And-
that's
and-
my
and
question
it's not
is,
really
why didn't
visible. I mean, it was never, you know, as I remember the meeting that where you looked at this photograph and where you looked at the extensions and whatever, the concern really was, that you had, was the connection between the transom window and the new door, and whether or not that could be pulled off. You know, it was about the new door that was replacing the window in the garage. This was being made into a door.
Right,
And that was the focus of that night.
that's right.
And when this was discussed and the extension of it and the other things, that was not a concern. We understood that was not anything that was,
Okay, well, it just, I see the foundation wall was like this, so,
but in the new elevation, you don't see that, right? I mean, you see that was all screened off with covering underneath the porch, you would never see that. That's what was approved.
okay, so on the original, this is the demolition.
That's right, then the first application, this is the demolition. And, you know, it shows up on here too, right? I mean, we're showing the demolition here too. So we're showing the taking this out, we're showing taking off the connector porch, the infills that we're taking out. And then we came back and while we may say that we were gonna move the wall to the west, surely no one understood that to mean pick it up and move it. We're extending it. So
Right.
in the end, we're talking about portions of this wall and part of that wall.
Okay, so,
Maybe.
so as far as what was submitted to us, it's this demolition,
That,
and then this is strictly the
That's strictly
The new,
the porch,
right.
yeah.
the porch.
and this was number 3, so
That's what
Right.
it's looking at
This
right
was,
now.
this was the extension
that's right.
Mhm.
out beyond, and if
Yeah,
I
that's
remember
a
correctly,
different
when,
one, yeah, but yeah.
when you came back that time, because originally this was gonna be cantilevered, and then you
Yes,
changed.
That's right,
Correct.
that's right.
Yes.
So
So
those-
one of the floors, one of the walls on the first floor was gonna be pushed out, or
Yes,
there was an
that's right.
extension, so one of those was
6
coming
months
down?
extension.
Yes,
That's right.
it was being, building was being extended by 6 feet.
Yes.
Toward the river, yes,
Okay. So that wall was being demoed,
correct,
so it's just a question of the other.
3, and the foundation.
I think also the proposed location or approved location of windows and doors, when looked in conjunction with the existing cutouts for windows and doors, made it almost
Especially on the south,
expected,
on the
right.
south
because
elevation.
there would be nothing left.
There was really nothing left.
And we didn't, you know, produce a drawing that shows that because that's what the plans show. I mean, they conveyed that. At least we understood they did.
Anybody have any other questions?
Actually, I do have one. On the original drawings, the new foundation on the extended portion was to match the rubble foundation. And then asking, because I've seen the tape, but I was not in the meeting on Wednesday, just to clarify, in the April session. As you modified and began your work, you decided to abandon the retention of that foundation, so the idea of matching the existing foundation no longer was in play?
When we did the selective demolition, what that showed us was the condition of the perimeter walls. Because the floor joists were literally on grade, right, it was just mulch underneath or whatever, we couldn't actually see the condition of the foundation. The foundation we could see was that rubble section at the south side, but we had already moved on to understand that this was gonna be enclosed, that the porch was gonna be extended, and it wouldn't be visible. So it wasn't something that we, originally when we came in, it was going to still be there because we weren't extending out 6 feet and the porch came on. But we didn't really know anything more about it until the actual, taking down of the second floor happened in the first floor. That's when we, after that came down, then we could see what the real foundation was. And it was actually on, ledge, which, as you know, is not an acceptable foundation. It may have been back when this was built, but it's not something that could pass code.
All right, John, so, and now, should we go into executive session?
Well, it would be an attorney, closed attorney-client privilege to seek advice of counsel. So I guess the question is, are you gonna do you wanna close the meeting altogether, or do you want to, are you gonna take any action afterwards, or?
Well, I mean,
The question is, do you need you
Yeah.
guys to stay, or can I leave?
I guess before you do that, we're trying to figure out what to do next also. And we hope to have a dialogue with everybody as opposed to an executive session. But also the point to think that, this applicant, this team is gonna continue to work with this board here in the past, they're gonna do it in the future, so. But we were hoping to have sort of a collaborative dialogue as to where we go now.
Okay, I think the board probably wants to talk to me. I know they have some legal questions for me, but I wanted to hear your side of the story first before I counsel them. So I guess the question is, if you guys wanna wait outside, and they may or may not be able to converse more, or somebody can just reach out to you guys tomorrow as far as the next steps. I don't know if they're gonna have an answer tonight, quite honestly.
Okay. So,
Your question was, is there, John, were you asking, when you said, are we going to take action? This is a workshop session? This portion of the meeting is a workshop
Well, I
session?
mean, are you gonna have any instructions for them, as far as what's
Yeah.
exactly, what's the
Understood.
next step? You may not know that answer tonight,
Understood.
you may, so I'm just, you can stick around and wait, but I don't
Probably.
know if they're gonna have any resolution as far as what exactly the next step is.
I guess I'm trying to contemplate in my head what action would be up for discussion. That's all.
Right, I don't really know, it's a whole bunch of things swirling around.
It was kind of like an information session, so that's what.
It seems like we should.
We should just stay, we'll go outside.
Should we set the
In
timer
in the
for
hopes that something will be.
25 minutes and give you an update if we need more time?
I'm sending a white handkerchief or
Yeah.
something.
John knows, I say
An
that
orange
every night.
couch. White.
see, what we need is a stove and we can have white smoke or black smoke.
There's just this ominous
Well,
feeling right
that's
now.
an
No,
elegant
no, no, no.
size.
We're gonna walk out the door, there's gonna be.
Boom.
Yeah, like, let you guys walk out first. Okay,
Okay.
we'll go outside, thanks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Does this get recorded?
No.
Absolutely not.
You know,
Yeah, so-
I know how the trustees handle these sort of things. How does this go?
So we
As far
actually
as
need
I'm
to
concerned.
make
So
a
this is
motion
a
now.
closed attorney-client privilege
Right.
session.
Can you make a
Seeking
motion
advice
right
of
now?
counsel. So it's not executive session,
Right.
because there's only
Go ahead.
certain.
Would you like to make a motion?
Means to go into executive session.
So John, I will make a motion to enter a closed session to seek counsel, of our attorney.
Second,
Okay.
I am in favor.
all in favor?
Aye.
Was that a second?
And
Sean?
Oh, I thought Al was
do I hang out in case there's something afterwards?
Yeah, there could be. I mean, they could reopen the
But
public
do you have
meeting.
that on?
Well, I'm going to turn it off now.
Back into session.
So moved.
Can I
Second.
have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so I spoke to the board, we went through some of their legal options, we discussed what you guys have presented, what we have reviewed. So essentially, it's kind of come down to this. They'd like to document what's happened, so they'd like you to come in and seek a modification for the demolition, kind of like what you did with the other project where you came in and said, this is why we need to demo it. I think you provided photos, you had like an engineering, I think you already have you probably already have a lot of this information, obviously. A conditions assessment, and basically come up with the rationale that would support the demolition, so that way we can document it for the board's sake. And in the interim, until the board essentially approves this after the fact, you know, that no work can continue on this structure, on just this on the guest cottage, until the board approves, or until you essentially document the demolition. So it's kind of like what would have happened if you had come in at the time you discovered the issues with the foundation. The board would have made you go through the process. So here we're just doing it after the fact, just because the board needs to document it. There's a lot of concern as far as what precedent it's going to set for other applicants or potential applicants or other professionals. So we want to make sure we have a record of essentially what happened. And that's it.
Okay, any questions?
When's the next meeting?
We meet once in December,
Understandable.
and it's the 12th, I believe. yeah,
So
12th.
today's the 28th.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm just thinking of timing to get something back to you.
So that process, we would be,
We're essentially
we would just come back, or we don't need a referral, we don't need.
No,
we
we
treat
would
it as
do
a
a
modification.
Just like a
for the
modification, just
previously approved
similar,
certificate.
just like with the other structure you had, where you came in and said, we can't salvage it, can't save it because of X, Y, and Z. Just present that proof. And, the board will review it, they'll ask questions, they just need to document it for future.
So essentially, what we explained tonight, put it in writing.
Yeah.
Well,
And
more
then-
than that, but
Images
also
of-
there are
yeah.
probably extensive photographs of the structural condition that
Right.
was there. So, submitting those photographs and whatever other documentation you
probably-
have from the structural engineer.
Did you have something from a structural engineer? I thought, so I heard somebody had mentioned, so
Just a
that,
geotech report,
some type of report.
we don't have, we took thousands of photographs of the cottage, we don't have thousands of photographs of the guest house, so
But we do have.
we do have some.
Yeah.
So whatever you have.
Whatever you
Most
have,
Vast
demonstrative,
thing to pull
Yeah.
Right. So
whatever
just
you got.
build your case so we can support it, even though it's after the fact. We just need to make sure we have a clean record, especially for future references. And, that's one of the big concerns here is precedent. And
I think, I hope, the board knows and going forward, of course, too, and they try to come back to you and go to the building inspector as much as possible, so. As far as precedent goes, it wasn't like they were, I've dealt with people before who've just taken entire buildings down without ever talking to anybody, so, the good thing is they were trying, so going forward too, they'll continue to stay in contact with the.
yeah, more so the HDRB than the building inspector. He's got a lot of stuff on his plate.
No, absolutely. I think the process is set up to go through him.
After we
Yes.
issue a C of A, it is, yeah.
Right. So, and that's something the village has to
Yeah, no,
fix
absolutely.
in the future.
Understood.
Okay,
Okay,
so you plan to come back on the 12th?
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
so
Old
we'll-
business.
And then again, no work on the
Yes.
guest cottage until this is all resolved, hopefully on the 12th.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Take care.
Good night. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, so the only, good night.
Yeah. See you. Say hello to wife and kids.
Same to you.
You guys see each other all the time here?
Used to work with them. I told him everything you know.
We
I don't know if I should say that.
We used to, I know, I was gonna say, John. We used to gauge my legal experience by the age of his children. I started working with John when his twins.
Now
were
they're
born.
in middle school.
Yeah. Anyway, good night.
Cool, have a good night.
Good night.
So, the zoning board put forward a proposal for public notices to be posted at properties in advance of public hearings.
You need me?
No.
No.
Thank you, John.
And I will email and call the building inspector.
Yeah, please let us know how it
I would
goes.
like him to paper it. They didn't object, so I don't see any issue with that. But it should be papered.
Yeah.
But I think you ought to copy in the mayor.
Yeah, I think Greg was on one of the chains.
He doesn't actually respond to any of that.
I know, but I wanna email so that way
There's a record
me
of it.
saying,
Yeah,
you need to issue, or,
Yeah.
issue stop work order.
Yeah.
So that way, at least we're protected, you
right.
know, whether he does it or not. Yeah.
Do we want John to attend on the 12th if they get their thing in on time to be on the agenda?
I can't see paying John for that, frankly.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, they're paying.
much as I, well, are they? Because it's not,
I told the attorney, I sent him an email saying, because he kept calling me and he wanted to talk to me and this, that, and the other, and I'm like, all right, I'll be happy to talk to you, but, this is basically a modification of the prior application, so this is going
oh,
towards your
well,
client's
in
escrow.
that case, It's up to
No,
you.
I think it's
I mean, you'll be
just
able to
our
watch the
standard
video
process.
afterwards anyway, so,
So,
which I'm sure you do.
Yeah, it's gonna be just routine stuff, so.
Right, I
can
don't
see
really
it.
feel like I need, I probably,
sit
I
through all
wouldn't,
night with us.
let's put it this way, I probably wouldn't have to be there anyway. Now, if things transpire between now and then where it looks like it's not gonna go so smooth, then,
Yeah.
obviously
Right.
that could change.
Okay.
So I'll be in contact with the other attorney, and if he's gonna show up and make a big stink about something, he'll let me know ahead of time.
Well, I think the only person who might make a big stink is the owner, is the property owner.
I don't know, I think he only got off.
Well, the property owner
has.
has never showed up to a single meeting that we've had,
Right.
so,
Well, no, I don't think he'll
The stink
show up,
will
I
be
think
remote.
he'll probably stick it to Beth and Paul and,
Anyway, thank you, John,
well,
so
as long
much.
as he doesn't, bring a tank or some other heavy armament and start shelling us, then it's okay. The crumb factor.
Good to
All right,
see you.
have a good night, it's good
Thank you
seeing
so
everybody.
much.
Seeing you.
Bye.
nice to see
Merry
you.
Christmas.
And
I
Merry
don't see you.
Christmas,
Merry
yeah.
Christmas, Happy New Year.
Yeah,
Happy
all that
Hanukkah.
stuff.
All of that good stuff, yeah.
Okay, so tell us about the
I
ordinance.
don't know anything about it, other
Neither
than
do I.
Marie has asked us to review this and get comments to her by Tuesday. The village board is planning on changing chapter 134, chapter 64, and whatever portions, I can't remember the numbers that apply to the planning board's code. 134-2564. So, they would like our comment on this. We have talked, it's something we've talked about before.
right.
Yeah, I think it's,
I mean, we don't have, if the trustees pass this, we have to do it, that's all.
Yeah,
So they're
yes.
looking for our input, and they're inclined to pass it, so we should.
Science takes a bit.
Do you wanna do this now, or email?
no, everybody should, do their own comments and send them to Marie.
Sure, do you wanna have a single response? I'm fine with everybody sending their own,
It's everybody send their own.
okay. And then the only other thing is confirming that we're on for Sunday at 10?
Yes. Did we say 10?
We did. If we do it a little bit later, I can go to yoga at 9.
Oh, then you'll be very relaxed. Will you stay awake? Can we do it at 10:30? Or how much later is later?
That's the third,
10:45?
is that the third?
Mm,
What day is that?
hang on, I'll look.
No, it's the
I think,
second.
second. Does anybody have a preference? Does anybody mind if it's later, or does that just wreck your day if it's later?
We can do 11 to,
11 to 1, hard
1?
stop? It's fine with me.
I feel like if we start at 10, we're gonna go to 1 anyway, so we might as well
We
start at
have
11.
though, we've been very good on Sundays at hard stop.
I don't know.
We have. Hey, you are just a Debbie Downer tonight.
I'm not. I'm a Debbie realist.
No, Debbie, no.
You're a Reggie realist?
Yeah.
Al is
I'm a
looking.
Peter practical.
Peter.
Insect populations have declined by as much as 75% so far.
You
Are
gotta
you
turn off
looking at
those
your
news
calendar?
alerts. They're just gonna ruin
Calendar,
your life.
okay,
They are
calendar.
gonna ruin your life.
You know what else I did to turn it off on my phone, and it's totally changed my whole perspective on the world? The percentage for the battery charge.
Congratulations.
I was so like frantic about whether it was 21% or 24%. And
Now
I
it
just
just
look at
dies.
it. Yeah, I know when it's about to die, and I feel fine.
Oh, public hearing notice sign will be furnished by the village at no cost to the applicant, great.
Why, that's illogical.
They're going to be reusable signs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Reusable and repositionable. I've seen
Oh,
this.
grease pencilable or removable sticker.
Yeah, I've seen this done in other places,
It
and
seems smart.
I think it's really smart. I think it's a really smart idea.
Why?
It's more bureaucracy.
Why is it a smart idea? Because
then
I
neighbors
think
know.
that sometimes you don't know. I think that if you lived on a street and you are 4 houses away from a building site as opposed
You're
to
not gonna get the
one
notice.
house, you're not going to get the notice, and it could, substantially.
And you
change.
don't follow agendas necessarily.
Also, I think that the integrity of the historic district belongs to everybody. It
Yes.
doesn't just affect, I think the
Yeah.
point of sending the notices to the adjacent neighbors is because we're concerned about construction noise or something. But that has nothing to do with whether or not the integrity of the building is maintained. That's something that everybody should be concerned about,
I think that's a really
no
good
matter
point.
where you live.
So what time are we doing Tuesday, Sunday?
Are you okay with 11?
11 to 1.
11 to 1? Alright, cool. Motion to adjourn?
Oh, Sunday is 11 now?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Michael, thank you for sitting through that.
You're welcome.
11 till 1?